I was personally affected by Josh's grooming, manipulation, and he can't go under the radar. No, it's not happening. He is just as guilty as the rest of them.
So this just aged absolutely horribly. How badly did this age? I mean, Johnny had me. I honestly believed him from the very beginning. I thought, you know what, like in my head, I was like, you know, if he's saying he's a victim is a victim. And if they've come out and they're saying all this stuff and they're really sticking to it and, you know, providing some form of evidence, but weirdly enough, not anything to do with like what he was making towards Josh. It was more the whole Trisha thing. Anyway, in my own head, I was like, well, if someone's going to come forward, you kind of got to believe him, like treat them as if they are a victim and treat them like everyone else. And basically what's ended up happening is, if you didn't see the Swoop documentary, Johnny has been lying to everyone. And in her own words, he's basically been a leech. He was leeching on to Josh, and then he was leeching on to Colleen after they divorced. And then after that didn't work out, he then just started leeching on to Adam's story. And he basically wanted everyone to believe him. But in the whole 6 hours that Swoop did a documentary with him, he didn't provide any evidence. And instead, he actually like degraded people who do actually suffer from SA or like have suffered from SA, people who have come out of DA incidents with their partners, spouses, whoever, whatever. Like, honestly, some of the stuff he was saying, and to say it to Swoop as well. Now, I've watched Swoop for quite a long time, been a subscriber of hers for, I think, a couple of years now. And she's always been extremely heavy on victims, because she is a survivor of, you know, really, really extreme things, and she honors everyone who has been through that, and she's always been such an amazing voice for those people. Like, a lot of her channel is about that, and, you know, even if the topic's not about that, the countless amounts of times I've heard her say, I'm a survivor, and every one of you should basically be able to tell their story when they feel like it. There is no time limit on it. And the way that Johnny was talking about Josh, like, well, he could have got out of that situation. Like, my thing's just way worse. And belittling Adam's story. Anyway, the whole thing, I'm not gonna like basically dissect the documentary, because I'd go on for ages, and let's be real, I'm not going to give it any justice because it was amazing. So definitely go and see it. It was a real shock, because I felt like I could have believed Johnny's story, and then I felt like I was completely blindsided, and yeah, there was just no truth to it. There was no backbone to it, and it does just make Johnny come across as someone who was almost like in love with Josh, like, you know, allegedly, you know, like it kind of makes it seem like he was really pining after Josh, but Josh kind of wanted to treat him with respect, but that was it. Josh being Colleen's ex-husband, who is actually doing an interview with Swoop in the next one, which is going to be amazing to watch, because I really would like to hear his side of the story. And he's going to be talking about Colleen and how they ended up divorcing, and all of those theories about the fact that Colleen cheated on Josh with Eric, which is her now husband, turns out to be correct. Like, people were actually right about that. And the whole thing is a whirlwind. But what I actually wanted to talk to you guys about today was Johnny's like tweets leading up and post the Swoop documentary. Now, Johnny was going around bragging that, you know, well, my story is the best one because she gave me 6 hours, you know, interview time. Then turns out that actually the only reason why it was 6 hours was because he talks for England, and Swoop couldn't really get to the bottom of it. He wasn't answering any questions, and it was just a complete waste of time. Apart from, now we know that he was basically lying the whole time about all these different allegations. He's been involved in group chat. Some of the stuff that you hear about happening in Johnny's group chats with the drinking and the sexual nature and stuff with like really, really young kids is just crazy to me. But basically Johnny came on and he made a series of posts, and he's actually made a post since watching the Swoop documentary where he feels like he was like done so bad. Do you know what I mean? So we're gonna give them a little read.
Actually, I'm not done.
So actually leading up to the documentary even airing, this is what Swoop says. So she says, "Thank you everyone who has checked on me this week. Producing part 3 took a toll on my mental health and triggered me in ways I didn't think possible. I wasn't sleeping or eating, and my fibro flare-ups got out of control," and then was posting about the doc will post early week, likely Tuesday update soon. So basically, even she admits that this took a huge toll on her mental health and her team's mental health, because they didn't realize just how messed up this whole entire story is, in the fact that Johnny was basically bullcrapping about pretty much everything. And some of the stuff that he says directly to Swoop in this is really horrible and disgusting. And he just doesn't even, it's like he doesn't care when he's talking about, you know, DA and DV and things. He really doesn't care. And that's obviously going to trigger her. And that triggers a lot of people who has to listen to this. But Johnny doesn't realize this. He doesn't realize that she's basically talking about him. He's like, "Keep taking care of yourself. Health is priority. Thank you for the energy and time you are putting into this." He literally doesn't have any inkling that he might actually be the problem. Like Taylor Swift says, "It's me. Hi, yeah, I'm the problem. It's me." He doesn't realize this. How can you be so caught up in your own head and your own ego that you don't even have an inkling that maybe that interview didn't go your way? Because when I was listening back to some of the clips from that interview, the 6-hour interview or whatever, there were moments where even Swoop or whoever as well were asking questions, but they were asking, you know, I hate to bring this up again, but can you just give me some real direct incidents? Just give me any incident where you feel like you were groomed. And then Johnny couldn't really give it. And after a while, that got really uncomfortable listening to. I'm like, how did you not realize? Johnny also posted that, "I just know part 3 of Swoop's doc is going to be a whirlwind. Let us all collectively mentally prepare." Does he think it's going to be a whirlwind because he featured in it for 6 hours? Is that what he didn't say anything. I mean, he did say everything. He's basically, you know, admitting mass guilt without realizing it. He contradicted himself so many times, which just dug him into an even deeper hole. And Swoop's team and Swoop herself were extremely clever to quickly realize this investigation on their own part and realize a lot of the stuff he was saying was utter crap. It's mad to me how he thinks he can get away with defaming someone on this grand level. You can't accuse someone of grooming you when they haven't done so. I mean, that the whole thing is completely wild. Anyway, so the whole thing aired, and he's actually released a little notes statement or whatever it is. I think pretty sure it's a note thing in a note form. He released a statement after watching the Swoop documentary, and this is what he had to say, and this is really wild. "Betrayed is an understatement. My trauma was used against me today in a way I had never imagined would happen. I was given guidance and a safe space to share my story. I was praised for being so vulnerable and honest, only to be defamed on such a gross level it feels beyond explanation right now. I feel so hurt and disregarded." Swoop, you claim to stand for victims, and what you did today is the polar opposite. Now, I just want to say first and foremost, the whole point of if you're trying to interview someone like this is to make them feel, you know, cozy, safe and secure, especially if you're interviewing somebody and this is the kind of topic that you're talking about. You need to make them feel as safe and as able to deliver what they want to say. Okay, you got to. Do you not watch any of those police crime investigation tapes? They do everything. If they realize that someone's lying and they want to get more information out of you, they will be nice as pie. They will agree with you. They'll go whatever you to hear whatever you want to hear. Do you see what I mean? To make you feel comfortable to share it. They probably realized that you were lying. They probably realized this and switched up strategy. I'm not saying that they're some sort of detectives on that kind of scale, but if you know, you know. If you want to try and get information out of someone, you need to try and make them feel comfortable. Then they'll want to divulge information. But you weren't it didn't sound like you were a victim. You were actually victim shaming both Adam and Josh. You were shaming Josh for not getting out of the relationship. I can't remember his exact terms, but basically, like, you know, basically shaming Josh for marrying her even though they were in a bad relationship. And like he was, you know, Colleen supposedly was really quite nasty towards Josh, and Josh couldn't leave. And that is what happens when you get into really, really bad DV/DA style relationships. Trust me, I know. Basically, Johnny was being like, well, whatever, like, it's not important, you had your moment and stuff. And you're saying that to Swoop as well, and you're saying that for all of us to hear. It didn't sound like you had plenty of opportunities to share with us, okay, on how you were a victim, and you didn't provide us with one singular piece of evidence. In fact, you just incriminated yourself. You actually made yourself sound about 1,000 times worse. You have completely shifted the narrative while making sure to promote your merch and fabricate a story for some extra revenue. I'm so beyond disgusted by all of this. I'm not going to sit here and defend myself to every one of your heinous allegations about me via Notes app, but I will be making a proper statement regarding all of the disgusting and false statements. This is 100% character assassination, and I won't stand for it. What I will say actually is, because I've literally watched Swoop for a couple of years now, close to it. I'm not really keeping tabs, but this is what Swoop does. She has her own merch line. She has Petty University. She has often, like, she had SeatGeek, and she often has very big sponsorships in her thing, but she also promotes her own merch, which, by the way, sounds pretty successful. She is a content creator. She's also got a whole team behind her. This is her full-time job, and she's doing it very, very well, okay? Don't be telling me that if you weren't as big and if you weren't as popular as she is, you wouldn't have your own, you know, merch line, you wouldn't have all this and that. This is how she earns her money. She does this, do not feel so flattered. She does this at the beginning, sometimes mid-rolls of pretty much most of her videos. And because of that, she doesn't actually have that many like ads, like skippable, watchable ads, because this is how she makes her money. And she should be able to do whatever the hell she wants. This is how you've been earning your money, making up false stories about someone who, you know, allegedly had a bit of a crush on. This is just what I think. This is what I think. As Swoop says, he's a bit of a leech. Swoop, you encouraged me and made me feel like you were a massive source of trust. You chose to interview Adam about allegations regarding me rather than talking to me, which for starters is scummy. You wanted information at your request as if I wasn't working full-time and in the process of moving, which I was upfront about. You can call names and spread your lies, but I know my truth and I will not stop sharing it because of people like you. The thing is that, like, if there's anyone that you want to go to and have someone lend an ear or try and make this bigger, i.e. Swoop, she's probably like one of the nicer people to go to. He went to H3H3, okay, went to Ethan. He basically talked over everyone else that was on there, which I did kind of think was a bit weird at the time, but I just kind of thought everyone else was a little bit shy. But then hearing Swoop talk about it, he was literally there just talking out of his bum, saying stuff that wasn't even true, like that whole phone number thing. Josh didn't just randomly, like, you know, in like a dodgy hallway or like a dodgy alleyway, like be like, hey, here's my phone number. Give Johnny his phone number because Johnny was going through a really hard place, but in front of his own parents. Okay, and the weird thing is that Johnny was also receiving phone numbers and that lot, I'm pretty sure, off of like minors. The whole thing is just, honestly, just go watch the documentary if you're not 100% sure what I'm talking about. But one thing I do know for sure is that you had ample opportunity to tell us your story, to tell us exactly what was going on, and to prove everyone that Josh was doing things he shouldn't have been doing. And the way that Johnny came across in my eyes was someone who kind of thought of Josh a little bit too fondly. Josh didn't really give him what he wanted, so he decided to, oh, well, F you, went to Colleen, leached on to Colleen. Then Colleen was like, okay, I don't really want you anymore. And now he's hopping on this whole bandwagon. But he was being chummy with Colleen up until, what was it, January? He went and saw a show. He was among one of the people to be like bad-mouthing Adam and things. And the whole thing is just like, why didn't I see this before? I think you just want to believe people when they come forward, because you just don't think that anyone would lie about this kind of thing. I like to think that people don't, therefore I tend to believe people when they come forward and say they were a victim. But I suppose you just can't trust anyone on the internet, can you? I mean, that's obvious. But I really feel like I had the wool pulled over my eyes, and a lot of other people did as well. You just have to read the comments. The comments are not good. I want to hear what Johnny's going to come back from this from. This is basically all we've got at the minute, because Colleen has been pretty much radio silent. There's nothing she can say. Like, the people that Colleen surrounds herself with just sound dodgy AF, and I just don't want anything to do with it, to be honest. But I thought I would just share this with you guys, because I'm really quite disgusted with the way that Johnny is still going on about it. I really am disgusted. He didn't give any viable evidence to say that Josh was doing anything inappropriate. There was nothing. In fact, he just incriminated himself even more, because we found out all this stuff that they've been doing, like Johnny and this other guy. It's just wrong, and it shouldn't happen. But this is basically all I really wanted to say. I hope you guys have a wonderful day wherever you are in this world. Take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and I'll catch up with you guys in the next video.
I hope you're sitting with these feelings you brought onto hundreds of innocent children for the last decade.